Fired my father on a Thursday, 3 hours after the stroke. Security wheeled Dad out of the office in a hospital chair, Roman IV still in his arm, badge clipped to a folder labeled Legacy Redundancy. I remember that label because I stole it off the printer tray while no one was looking. I was still in my intern badge then, still the coffee girl, still pretending I didn't know the man who just lost 30 years of his spine to corporate hemorrhaging. I let him go with a tote bag and a generic email that said wishing him the best in his future endeavors. He didn't get severance. He didn't get goodbye cake. He got a blood clot in his right eye and silence from the man who once promised to mentor him into retirement. That man, the one who said we're a family here while gutting payroll like a deer, was currently 2 seats away from me, talking about verticals and tech stack like the walls weren't about to collapse. Synergy between our 2 cultures is key, he said. Your board's enthusiasm is contagious. He still didn't know. Didn't know I changed my name. Didn't know I built Kine Industries off the scraps he tossed in the fire. Didn't know the young woman with the tight bun and quiet smile staring at the merger terms used to sit 3 floors below mopping blood off the company restroom floor after layoffs. He paused when the lead counsel said, effective immediately. All executive authority transfers to Kine. A beat, then 2, he looked at me. You're not, wait, you're the Kine? I looked at his tie. Gold silk. Same one from the photo I'd hidden in my father's medical folder. His hand trembled on the table. My assistant will email transition logistics, I said, voice smooth as glass. I'll be conducting exit interviews personally. His jaw opened like a cracked window. Your daughter owns a billion-dollar company. And for the first time in years, I let my smile reach my eyes. Correct, I said, and I just acquired yours. But the part that really mattered, I hadn't told him yet. That the patent his company buried, the one they said lacked market value, was mine. That I'd bought the building lease out from under them last week. That he had 15 days to vacate or pay me rent. I hadn't told him. What else I owned? Let him stew in uncertainty. Let him guess. Because this wasn't revenge. This was just the prologue. The first thing he did after the shock calcified in his throat was laugh. Not joy, not humor. The laugh of a man watching the noose descend but still praying it's decorative. Okay, he said, shifting in his chair like the leather burned. This is a power move. I respect that, honestly. But let's be reasonable. The board they already voted. I cut in. Unanimously. Your stock dilution passed before you walked in. He blinked, that pause again. The one where men like him realize the world isn't made of handshakes anymore. It's made of signatures they didn't see coming. I stood slowly. Let the silence stretch until it curled like smoke around the glass walls of the conference room. He kept talking. I can advise, consult, take a temporary chairman role while you adjust. You're clearly ambitious, but acquisitions at this level require finesse. I built this company from. You built it from my father's lungs, I said, quiet and sharp. 30 years of work and you erased him like a typo. You don't get to rewrite now. That hit harder than I expected. His face paled in that corporate way like an Excel sheet just failed to save. But you're kind, he muttered. His daughter? I was the intern who cleaned your spilled bourbon off the HR desk after you called my father obsolete. He fell silent. For the first time in the man's life. I think he ran out of script. Then the door opened. It was Marla. His longtime secretary, stooped now, still sharp as a blade in heels. She nodded at me, handed him a folder, and said, she owns your debt too, Gregory. He didn't move. Marla looked at me and whispered, took you long enough. I hadn't seen her in years, but she recognized me. Same eyes as my father. Same defiance, too. She had slipped me classified financials once back when I was still in college. Slid it under the bathroom stall during her smoke break. That spreadsheet sparked everything. The start of Kine Industries, the start of this. Gregory tried one last time. The voice turned desperate now, staccato with disbelief. You don't understand what this company means to people. And you don't understand what it meant to him, I said, but you will. I turned to leave but paused at the door. Oh, and Gregory, check your email, he looked. And I watched the last bit of color drain from his face, because it wasn't just an acquisition. I had uploaded the suppressed research my father developed, the project they killed to slash costs, the one that predicted market shifts they all ignored. I gave it away, open source, free. The tech world was going to eat his bones by morning. I didn't slam the door on the way out. I wanted it to stay open so he could hear the applause from the new floor below, because the interns were watching. And this time they knew exactly who I was. The email was timestamped 3:47 p.m., subject line, reclamation. I'd scheduled it a year ago, automated the whole thing to deploy across every major industry channel the moment the last acquisition clause was signed. Dad's model, his life's work, was now public. And within 20 minutes the comments started flooding in. Where the hell was this data hiding? This just made half my portfolio look prehistoric. Whoever released this, thank you. By the time I reached the elevator, my phone had already buzzed 62 times. Forbes, TechCrunch, MIT Tech Review. Even that old weasel from CNBC who once mocked my startup as another blonde bubble. I let it ring. I wasn't done yet. Floor 28 was where they used to keep the research team. What was left of it after Gregory slashed them in 21 and sold off half their patents to fund a rebrand. I'd bought the patents back last spring, anonymously. Each one, bit by bit. through shell firms and ex-partners who owed me favors. When I stepped out of the elevator, someone was already waiting. Victor. Gray hoodie, red wings cap, same lopsided smirk he wore when he dared me to join the algorithm competition in undergrad, and then panicked when I won. You actually did it, he said, eyes scanning my face like he didn't fully believe it was real. Did you bring it? I asked. He held up a flash drive, encrypted 6 ways. If your old man's model was the spark, this is the ignition. What's the timeline? Once I plug it into the dev server, it'll backtrace every product line they shelved, rerun the projections, and publish side-by-side failures. You'll be able to see exactly where Gregory's leadership tanked innovation, and who signed off on every burial. Perfect, I said, do it. He gave me a long look. You sure? You're not just burning the bridge, you're taking down the whole damn city behind you. That city built itself on my family's bones, I said. Let it burn. While he plugged in the drive, I walked the old corridor. The smell hadn't changed, cheap toner and something sterile like dreams dying under halogen lights. I passed Dad's old desk. They hadn't reassigned it. It just sat there, tucked in a forgotten alcove, collecting dust and silence. I reached into the drawer and pulled out the photo they'd left behind, Dad, me, and Marla at a company picnic. He looked tired in the picture, but proud. I slipped it into my coat pocket, then my phone buzzed again. Gregory M. is calling. I stared at the screen, let it ring once, twice, then picked up. You have no idea what you've done, he hissed. Actually, I said, calm. I know exactly what I've done. I gave your competitors everything you buried, and I made sure the world knows your name is stamped on every corpse. Silence. Then he said something I hadn't expected. Something that didn't sound like anger but fear. You need to be careful, Kine. You just opened a vault I sealed for a reason. You think this was about cost-cutting? He lowered his voice. There are people you don't know about, people I couldn't cross, and now you've dragged them into the light. That was the moment I stopped walking. Not because I believed him, but because I almost did. And that's when the second call came in. Unknown number, no caller ID, just a single message that flashed across my locked screen. We know who you are, and we know what you've taken. I stared at it. The hallway suddenly felt colder because I hadn't taken everything yet. But apparently someone thought I had. The message disappeared before I could screenshot it. No trace. No log in my history, just a brief flicker like static under the skin. I turned slow, like the hallway itself might have grown teeth. Victor glanced up from the server console, eyebrows raised. You okay? He asked. I didn't answer, just walked over and yanked the flash drive out of his hand mid-transfer. Hey, that could corrupt. Pull it, I snapped. Now. He froze, then leaned in, voice lower. What happened? I handed him the phone. Check for trackers, worms, anything. You think you're being watched? I didn't think. I knew. That message wasn't bluff. It was too specific, too clean. Gregory wasn't the kind of man to bluff. He was the kind to outsource threats, which meant someone else was in play now, and I had just kicked open their door. Victor got to work on the phone. Meanwhile, I took the stairs. 29 flights. I needed time to think, to sort what was fear and what was gut instinct. All I knew was this: I had planned for Gregory's retaliation. I hadn't planned for a ghost network that knew how to make data vanish. When I reached the ground floor, Marla was waiting by the security desk. Her coat was buttoned. She had her purse slung across one shoulder like she was about to vanish into the wind again, but her face was carved from marble. I figured you'd come down, she said. He called me, said you'd triggered something. Who? Gregory, she said. But he didn't sound angry. He sounded small. That caught me off guard. He said the name Barrister. Her eyes met mine. Does that mean anything to you? My stomach dropped. Barrister. I hadn't heard that name in years, not since the research blackout. Not since Dad came home white-knuckled, whispering about internal blackrooms and off-ledger funding. He said it once like the word tasted sour. Barrister. I thought it was code, maybe a dead project, a competitor. But I dug for years and never found a thing, until now. Where's the paper archive? I asked. Marla's lips tightened. They gutted it last year, digital only now. But someone like Gregory, I said, already turning toward the back elevators, he'd keep originals. Hidden for leverage, and I knew exactly where he would have stashed them. His private sublevel, officially decommissioned after the last round of downsizing. Unofficially, still wired for power. Still guarded by a biometric lock. I took Marla's badge. She didn't argue, just handed it over and said there are files they told him to burn. He didn't, he kept copies. Why? Because someday, she said, he knew someone smarter than him would come looking. I took the freight elevator alone, no music, just the mechanical groan of old cables and my heart pounding like a war drum. Sublevel B3. The doors creaked open into darkness, smelled like mold and metal and secrets with teeth. There were 2 doors, one marked storage, one unmarked, keypad only, and under that keypad, a strip of tape. A handwritten code, Kine. My fingers trembled as I punched it in. The door clicked open, and inside rows of boxes, a wall of paper, printed spreadsheets, thermal photos, diagrams, old ID cards, and dead center on a rusted metal table sat a manila envelope with my name on it. Not Miss Kine, not to whom it may concern. Just Lena, my real name, in my father's handwriting. The air in the room pressed down like wet wool. My name, written in that distinct all-caps slant, the one my father used when he was scared he'd forget something, stared up at me from the envelope like a question I never wanted answered. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I circled the room. Filing cabinets with stripped handles. Labeled boxes, Q3 synthetic optics. Project missed, redacted, non-patentable. Most of the folders were dust-logged and time-warped like they hadn't been touched since Bush was in office. But under the grime, I spotted something newer, glossier. A file marked KX217 Kine. I pulled it. Pages of internal correspondence. Names I hadn't seen in years. Some struck through with red marker. One memo was dated the same week my father collapsed at his desk. Subject contingency if subject Kine fails to comply with NDA 91. And below that, scribbled in Gregory's handwriting, use barrister protocol, no leaks, no noise. My throat dried out like someone flipped the furnace on inside me. Subject Kine, that wasn't a typo, that was designation. And if he fails to comply, they'd had a plan, not just to fire him, to erase him. I went back to the envelope, peeled the seal like it might detonate. Inside was one single page, folded once. No watermark, no official header, just a message. Lena, if you're reading this, it means they broke containment. I kept the original drives off-site, not for safety, for you. I know what they're doing with Mist, I couldn't stop it, but you still can. Trust no one wearing a badge, not even the ones who remember your birthday. I'm sorry, for all of it. Dad, there was something taped to the bottom of the letter, a keycard. Old style, unmarked, but with a handwritten number on the back. Silo 9, I'd never heard of it, and I'd heard of everything. Suddenly the lights flickered, once, twice, then off. My instincts screamed. I grabbed the folder and the envelope and ran. Back through the door, up the service stairs. Elevator was dead, of course, and into the stairwell just as I heard footsteps down in the corridor I'd just left. Not running, not rushing, just one steady pair, following. I didn't stop until I was back in the executive lobby. Victor was waiting, face pale, breath short. They accessed your phone, he said. I found residual code, ghost packets. Someone's monitoring you in real time. How? It's not them, not Gregory's team. This is deeper, protocol-level access. Someone gave them a backdoor. I didn't hesitate. Shut everything down, no more drives, no more networks. If we're still clean, we go analog from here on. Victor nodded and pulled the battery from his phone without another word. I did the same. Marla joined us by the windows, carrying a battered briefcase. Wasn't sure you'd make it back up, she said. I handed her the letter. Her face didn't change. She just said, then you're almost there. Where's Silo 9? She closed her eyes for a long second, like it hurt to remember. Not where, she said finally. When? I blinked. What? You'll see, she said, and handed me a key she wasn't supposed to have. Rusted, real metal, with a tag that said ARK. Then she added one last thing. They tested Mist on your father. And suddenly I realized I had no idea what my revenge had actually started. He wasn't supposed to survive. That was the first thing Victor said when he decrypted the drive hidden inside the ARK key. Not a flash drive, not a card. Damn cassette-sized microtape embedded in the briefcase hinge, like Cold War spy gear. We had to drive 3 hours to an off-grid cabin in Huron County just to find hardware old enough to read it. Victor sat cross-legged on the concrete floor while the analog reader ticked like a metronome from hell. I watched through a haze of disbelief as each file scrolled past on the small black and green terminal. Line after line of clinical logs. Data batches labeled MistCog and Neurophase Roman 3. The name appeared over and over again, stamped at the top of each report. Kine Walter, Subject 17A, status, partial retention, involuntary compliance, memory drift present. They used him, not just silenced him. They injected him with something. Mist wasn't just a project. It was a neurological weapon masquerading as innovation, an AI-laced cognitive tether that manipulated perception, suppressed memory, rerouted thought. And my father had been the test bed. Victor ran a side scan for the lab referenced in the files. Silo 9 wasn't an archive. It was an off-book facility disguised as a mothballed logistics warehouse 2 counties east, built into a hillside, on no maps, no zoning record. But the electrical bill was quietly paid, monthly, by a shell company I traced back to Gregory's signature. And I had just legally acquired every asset under that name. Victor glanced at me. You're not going there alone. You're not coming, I said. If what's in there is still active, it doesn't just record. It infects. Then we nuke it, he said. I shook my head. Not yet. I need to know what they did to him. I need to see it with my own eyes. He didn't argue. Just handed me a bag, analog camera, Geiger meter, bolt cutters, an old-school SAT phone, and said, if you don't call by midnight, I burn it all. We didn't hug. Weren't that kind of story? I reached the gate at Silo 9 just after dusk. Steel, rust, no keypad, just a circular slot the size of a bottle cap. I slid the ARK key into it, a groan. Something inside shifted. The gate opened. The inside was darker than night. No electricity, no sounds but my breath and the drip-drip of water from somewhere deep inside. My flashlight cut across what looked like an old decontamination chamber, peeling hazard signs. Wires like vines, mold feathering across the floor tiles. The hallway split left and right. I chose right. Every door was locked until I reached the 6th one. The handle turned. Inside, a room no bigger than a gas station restroom. One steel table, one chair, and on the wall, photos, hundreds of them, my father. Younger, older, hospital bed, office, with me, without me, some of them. I didn't even remember being in, and then I saw it. A video monitor. Still warm, still glowing, faint green. The feed started playing the moment I stepped inside, and there he was, my father hooked to something, not fully conscious, speaking in bursts. If she finds this, tell her I never forgot. Even when they tried to make me forget, my legs buckled. I dropped to my knees in front of the screen. They said it was progress, that we'd be the bridge. They were lying. They always were. I hid it in the white door. She'll know which one. Tell her the mirror isn't a mirror, it's the lock. The screen cut to static. And then, just before it died, another voice. Not his, low, mechanical, like a filtered echo. Subject activity detected. Proxy breach acknowledged. Deploy recovery. And then the lights came on. I wasn't alone. The fluorescent snapped awake with a sound like bone breaking under boot. For half a second I couldn't see, blinded by sterile light. Flickering kind you only find in morgues and places meant to forget time. I turned slowly, every nerve screaming in directions I couldn't name. The hallway behind me empty, still. Then a sound, not footsteps, not breathing, scraping, metal dragging across concrete, deliberate, rhythmic. I pressed my back to the wall and held my breath, reached into my bag, no weapon because that wasn't the kind of danger I expected. Just a camera, just a bolt cutter, just a name I was trying to resurrect from memory's grave. And then, out of the far end of the corridor, something moved. Not a person, not exactly. A figure in a white hazard suit, face hidden behind a mirrored visor, hands tucked behind its back like it was inspecting the hallway it already owned. It didn't walk. It tilted, gliding with a stiffness that didn't match human anatomy. And it stopped right in front of the door. Didn't enter, didn't speak. Just tilted its head. Backed away, deeper into the room and scanned the walls. The white door, the message Dad left, the mirror isn't a mirror. I turned toward the corner where a warped mirror hung above a sink, shattered in the middle. I yanked it off the wall. Behind it, a recessed panel, white, no handle, smooth like plastic but cooler, embedded in the corner, a pin-sized reader. I took the ARK key from around my neck and pressed it in. Click, the wall hissed and opened. Behind it, a staircase. Pitch black, I didn't think. I ran, down, harder, deeper. The sound of the hazard-suited thing above me getting quieter, no pursuit, no hurry, like it knew where I was headed, like it didn't need to chase what was already doomed. The stairs opened into a vault, and inside, on a metal gurney, surrounded by machines humming low and slow like sleep, was my father, alive, or something close. His eyes were open but not focused. Tubes curled from his arms. Electrodes mapped his skull. On the wall, monitors scrolled lines of data so fast I couldn't catch a single word. Then one screen paused, text appeared. Subject 17A inhibitor suspended, memetic recall unlocked. Key phrase detected, Lena. His head turned, and for the first time in 4 years my father looked at me. Lena, he croaked, you found it. I ran to him, grabbed his hand. Still warm, still real. They lied to me, he said, about what they were building. About you? I tried to leave signs. Did you get the letter? I nodded, tears biting at the edge of my voice. I found everything. I bought the company. I buried Gregory. We're safe now, he smiled, faint, crooked, sad. No, baby, he said, you don't understand. And then the far wall slid open with a hiss. Another figure stepped in. No suit, just a woman in black, her face pale and unreadable. Sharp jaw, corporate heels. A badge with no name. Just a logo I didn't recognize but instinctively hated. She looked at me, calm, clinical. You weren't supposed to get this far, she said. But I suppose it's time. Time for what? I asked. She smiled. For the offer your father died to reject. And then she set the briefcase on the gurney, unlocked it, and opened it toward me. Inside was me, a photograph, a DNA chart, neural scans, and a contract. Proposal, Subject 17B, Successor Program Initiation. My name was already signed, in my own handwriting. I stared at the signature, my own curves, my own loops, but I'd never signed this, never seen this paper, never even dreamed of it, yet there it was, ink too fresh to be fake. So perfect it was worse than forgery. It was memory rewritten. What the hell is this? I whispered. The woman in black didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head, exactly like the hazard-suited figure upstairs, and said, it's you. The version you were meant to become. My father tried to sit up. Alarms beeped. He choked, one hand reaching toward me like it was the last reflex he still controlled. Don't listen to her, he gasped. That contract isn't real. It's constructed from harvested cognition. They mapped your brain 5 years ago when you were still interning before I could stop them. I backed away from the gurney. My head spun. You're lying, I snapped at the woman. She opened a slim folder from the briefcase. Inside were surveillance stills, me in elevators, boardrooms, even asleep in my college dorm. All labeled, dated, my location, my thought process. We never needed you to sign it, she said. You've been consenting since the moment you entered our system. This was always the conclusion. Then she pulled out one final item, a drive, labeled Kine Mirror Initiative. This contains the full prototype of what we extracted from your neural patterns. Synthetic intuition, strategic recursion. You've already used pieces of it to build your company. That's why you've always been 10 steps ahead. We didn't expect you to weaponize it against us, but we admire the outcome. She placed the drive beside my father's trembling hand. You can upload this now, or walk away and watch everything you've built start to fail, piece by piece, as the tether degrades. The cognition you think is yours will erode without it. And if I refuse, I asked. The woman smiled. Then you'll find out what happens when you remove the scaffolding from a skyscraper mid-storm. Victor's words came back in a rush, then we nuke it. I reached into my coat, pulled out the analog detonator. Marla had given it to me before I left, said it was keyed to the servers buried in the sub-basement, said it would erase everything, every last line of code, every last ghost. The woman's eyes flicked to it, still no fear, just mild curiosity. You would destroy your own father's mind, she said, gesturing to the machines. Everything he remembers is entangled in our sequence. He'll lose all of it. I looked at him, his lips trembled. Lena, do it. What? His voice was firm now, full, real. If you upload that drive, they don't just control me, they control you. Your instincts, your thoughts, your victories. You'll always wonder if they were yours. That's not freedom. That's just a prettier prison. My hand hovered over the button. Then I looked the woman in the eye. You made one mistake, I said. You thought I came here to win, and I pressed it. The floor trembled. Lights shattered. Sirens wailed like dying machines. Behind me, the glass cracked across every monitor. The feed of my father's vitals turned to white noise. The woman didn't run. She just watched. And whispered, so be it. I grabbed my father's hand and pulled. We ran, through smoke and light and collapsing lies, up the stairs, past the door where the hazard figure now stood slumped, empty inside. Just a suit, just a shell. We didn't stop until we hit daylight. Huron sky above, cold wind in our lungs. Victor was waiting at the ridge. When he saw us, he dropped the match into the fuel line. The whole hillside went up like a funeral pyre for everything they built. 3 days later, the kind name vanished from the servers. Every file wiped. Every backup gone. The company collapsed. Stock plummeted. Gregory disappeared. The woman in black, no record, no trace. I rebuilt from zero. No code, no shortcuts, no AI scaffolds. Just me. Turns out, that was more than enough. Appreciate you sticking around, you legends of the break room. Subscribe for more chaos. Let's make your old manager spill their coffee in fear.